I had a cat on the... Yes. Hi. Oh. I've been trying to convince this that he'd like to be helpful with making a video today. He's not so convinced. I know. Hi, Paolo. How are you? Neuron, say hi to the people. I don't wanna. But I don't wanna. But why? Why are you being mean to me, Mama? Why are you mean to the cat? Good. Okay, I'm glad video is good. Neuron is done with my shenanigans today. No, she's nice. Be nice to the people. Are you gonna be nice to the people? Give them some rumbles at least. Can you give them some rumbles? See, I'm the cutest little kidder. Leave me alone. I'm an independent tiger. Look, you're on video. You see? You're on video. That's you. Okay, so you're always up on my desk when I don't need you up on my desk. But then the moment the camera turns on, you're like, no, I'm done. Bye. Bye. Okay, bye. All right, I'm gonna get my actual coffee now. Yeah, he has places to be. He has to be up on his throne up in the basement, supervising his plants. That's his new favorite place to be. Except he was in here right before I started. Once I had a self-facing camera up while Bex and I snuggled, and he saw himself on the screen, suddenly made a super serious face and brought his toes into frame to flex them. So Neuron was the runt of a litter of 5 identical cats, which is kind of like scary to think about because he's about 13 pounds. He's like a fairly large cat. And he's like really assertive and really powerful. Like he's not fat. That's 13 pounds of like little tiger. But he was the runt of the litter and he was the shy one. And he's like this crazy assertive terrorist now. So we always wonder, like, if that was the shy little runt of the litter, what are the other 4 like? But when we got him, he, the first day we had him at home, he was away from his brother, so he was really scared. And as he's exploring the apartment, he'd come running back to me all the time. Like he'd take 3 steps and then he'd run back to me and yell and want snuggles. And eventually he made his way down the hall to where we had like a full-length mirror, and he saw the tiger in the mirror and just freaked out. It's hilarious because, again, he was the runt of a litter of 5. So he had 4 brothers that looked like him but bigger, but he saw himself in the mirror and he was just terrified. Okay, let's push this back a little. Yeah. Do we have Kelly here today? I've been trying to figure out what colored pencils to keep. I was gonna send her the rest of my polychromos. And I've been a little slow on that because I keep second guessing myself. A bit brain foggy lately, so it's difficult to make decisions. Anyway, what else do I have? I also have this lovely sketchbook, which I just got a couple days ago from Lindsay. I'm not sure what kind of sketchbook this is. Is there a... I'm not sure. Sea White. So this is a Sea White sketchbook. So that's the first time I'll ever be using this variety of sketchbook. And so I'll show what she sent me and then I'll do my sketch in here. So this is, she's got a travel passport where she's got us writing our names. And do I have a pen handy? I'll use this. And today is February 26th, 2021. Hi, Stephen, how are you? Gardner Neuron. Yeah, he's super sweet. I built up a new indoor seed starting station indoors. And so it's just a really large shelf, and the top shelf doesn't have lights in it. It's where I'm storing like fertilizer and extra garden pots and stuff. But I set aside one side for the cat, which of course he discovered right away. It's right next to a window well where he likes sitting. So he's up there, and then he can stare down at his plants, which he likes. And I'm gonna put one of his favorite beds, like he uses my sweaters to sleep on. So I'm gonna put an alpaca sweater up there. I have one of those. I did a watercolor sketch in it. Not a big fan, but I love it for ink drawings. Okay, cool. It seems to be like a sort of, it's a cold press, but it's a fairly smooth cold press. And then Lindsay did a sketch of a mug here. And so I'm gonna take the next spread here, and I've got these are milkweed pods, which I collected outdoors, and I've been meaning to try something with watercolors where I use a lot of, I was going to use graphite and water soluble graphite, and then some like heavily granulating watercolors. Granulation looks good on it. I basically used it for mixtures. Okay, well that's promising, because what I'm planning on doing today is going to be pretty heavy on the granulation. So I am going to basically be sketching like this. Oh, sorry, I'm out of frame. This. Didn't go over sketch, but now I want to watch. Well, you can do both. I'm pretty slow. Okay, I was trying to figure out if I put this here, raise it up a little. So yeah, so I'm gonna start out with some pencil. Lindsay says, sorry, we'll be a bit distracted playing Guildhall with my mom and brother. That's totally fine. How are you feeling now that you're back at home? You are back at home, right, Lindsay? The sketchbook is eventually going back to you, so you'll have plenty of chance to see what it's, give it a closer look, I guess. So how is everyone? How were your weeks? Resting from lots of exercise, but March is close. March is indeed close. Is there any special meaning to March for you? Paula says he likes to watch me draw. Thank you. A little bit further in here so I can get more of that. March is time to lose some fat that I put on in January and February. I thought you were trying to gain weight, Stephen. Confused about these goals. Alex says it's been an awfully long year this week. I concur, but we'll get there. Have you been up to anything lately? Not a huge amount. So in here, I'm trying to adjust the angle of these so that I can get more of this into the painting. So I'm sort of adjusting the shape that I see here. Of course, the angle on the camera is going to be slightly different from the angle that I'm seeing this at. There's not much I can do about that, unfortunately. Put on muscle and fat and then just lose fat. Okay, that makes sense. Hi Lana, how are you? I've once again got like quite a backlog of video to edit, where I've recorded video but I haven't edited it. I need something to protect my paper because I'm walking over it. Do. I don't think I have listened to it at all. I should do that. How do you all schedule your days? I feel like that's something I really struggle with and have been struggling with more since the pandemic. Because I don't have any sort of external demands on my time. I have set hours to walk the dogs, cook, and classes. Right. So I used to have stuff like that, like I would teach classes and stuff, And since I'm doing a lot less of that because of the pandemic, even that structure is gone. I just feel like I try to schedule myself some time and then I'm just losing a lot of time, and part of it is that I'm dealing with like chronic fatigue and stuff, but part of it isn't that. It's just not getting things done. So I don't have a lot of free time. Yeah. I need to give myself less free time, but I need to introduce some accountability somehow. I'm going to. Wait! Wow. Sorry. Move this up here. But I am going through a rough patch. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Pablo. Hope I'm not bringing up anything painful for people. Just curious to hear how other people are, what strategies other people have for keeping themselves motivated. With everyone working from home and not having so many demands on their time. Getting enough sleep and taking all the supplements helps with motivation. It lowers the energy needed to get started. Yep, that's good advice. My problem is I don't know if it's ADHD or an underlying autoimmune condition or something else entirely, or whether I actually got COVID or some other respiratory disease like way back when. But I just need a ton of sleep, like a lot. And it seems like the more I sleep, the more I feel like I need, where I can like rapidly get to the point where I'm sleeping 14 plus hours a day. Yeah. Alex says, I've benefited from blocking time rather than hourly and having a list of 3 things I must do and stretch goal in case of 4. Okay. All right. And like, what sort of things are we talking? The list can help when I remember to look at it. Well, there's that too. When my list includes things like find the list, find the other list, which I misplaced somewhere. My schedule lately has been trashed though. Also need to overhaul it. Yeah. I also feel like there's some like meds related nonsense here where I'm on anti-anxiety meds, but I used to use medication as a crutch to deal with ADHD. Really, or not medication. I used to use anxiety as a crutch, as a productivity crutch to deal with lack of motivation from ADHD, where like I would just create anxiety for myself, and that would get me to get things done. And now I'm on anti-anxiety meds and trying to do mindfulness and stuff, and definitely a lot less anxious, but you know, ideally I would still get things done. Like just being a lump all the time, even if I'm not an anxious lump, is, you know, not ideal. I usually go by tasks too. Okay. Cool. Kitties have last meal breakfast at 9:30 p.m. So between dinner and breakfast. Do a thing after breakfast. All I am to do. Times I will. For hour blocks. I may schedule a task into the block, but try not to micromanage beyond that. Okay, so I guess my other issue, which I've discovered with myself, wait, okay, move that over here. Is you know, being realistic about what a block is, where like I've tried to even just block out a week, and you know, I'll do one thing this day and one thing that day, and I'll record a video, I'll edit a video or something, and you know, due to a combination of being just a lot less effective than I used to be and not getting started at a reasonable time, I've just been finding that a lot of those, even those things, are just not, like, they're just not getting done. So, you know, I love checking things off the to-do list, but to-do lists are less effective when it's just like a never-ending pile of things that you never do. I've been having a really, really bad few months, to be honest. Maybe it is the pandemic. Dang, this seems a rather complex drawing. Yeah, you know, I have this bad habit of choosing some fairly complex subjects. But also because I'm incorporating, I'm planning on incorporating some graphite into here, like in the drawing itself. So I'm not really shying away from adding in more graphite work than I usually would. Like usually I build most of this up in watercolor. Consistent sleep schedule is also very important. I know what you mean though. Yeah. I mean, granted, I have been getting a lot better at that, at least. The meds are helping. And also the fact that, like, I'm tired all the time. So, like, getting to sleep is no longer an issue. But just this idea that I'm going to have, like, 8 hours of sleep. Yeah, right. I'm going to have 14. Maybe plan a nap, enjoy your day. I did that and it screws me up. So I'm better off just having a long sleep at night, because if I plan a nap into my day, then I start winding down before my nap. And then when I wake up from my nap, that really screwed me up when I was taking regular naps. Mind you, after the live stream, I have been napping because I just collapse. Damn, I miss being super productive and like getting way more done. That was nice, guys. Anyway, I'll stop complaining. Okay, I'm curious to get started, so I'm gonna start working on this corner and still work my way across with paint. So the goal here was to really play with texture. Let's try to move these over a little bit. So these are my Roman Schmal paints, and I'm working with these because this set has some interesting effects, colors. So yeah, I am just picking up whatever's on my palette. This is like the shadow violet, I guess. And I'm also going to pick up some of this, the Mars Black, mix that right in, and then just try to paint in some shadows, as well as just start working in some of the texture over here. Tips for getting things done. Some days are good, some days are not. Yeah, I've just had a lot of not good days recently. I tend to keep an agenda to keep track of how much wears me out and what I can manage comfortably. That's good. I would have to keep track of the agenda then. That would wear me out. Ooh. I'm misplacing my book with my planning list bits regularly too. I misplace everything. And that one's not like, even when I was super, super duper effective and efficient, I still misplaced everything. Like, that's not news, but just like one more thing, you know, like people are like, oh, just track things, just just make a plan. Like, but then I have to keep track of the plan. ADHD is fun. Can't we just put bells on these things or train cats to retrieve on command? Hey, like, I know you're joking, but also, like, I kind of do that. Less now that I'm not going out because of the pandemic, but when I was leaving the house regularly, I'd want to have my phone as well as my wallet. So I bought a phone case that's like a wallet, and so the phone would live in the phone case, and so then before I would leave, I'd use my computer, which is helpfully attached to the wall, so it can't move, to find my phone, like make it ring, because then I would find my phone and my wallet at the same time. Yeah, it's easy, just don't lose it. Have you not heard anything I just said? Yup. You're on my wavelength. Ah. Ah. Now, if I could train Neuron to retrieve things, that would be helpful. He's cute though. He alarms about things that are like wrong in the house. So, you know, if I water the plants and the little dish at the bottom overflows, he'll alarm about it. If there's steam coming out of the shower, he'll alarm about it. If things haven't been put away where he wants them, he'll alarm about it. Somebody came to the door and dropped the thing off. Come see, come see, come see. Unfortunately, when I lose something and I ask the cat where it went, he doesn't give me a straight answer. Oh, I don't know. What's wrong with you? Why are you bashing around? Neuron is so precious. Yes, he is. He's my little baby boy. I'm beat today. I'll go take a nap. Have a great Friday, guys. See you all tomorrow. See ya. Hope to be there tomorrow. I've watched the clock before. Sometimes Dex gets riled up and loud at exactly 9:29:50. That's a very serious internal clock. When we were in university, I had an alarm for 7 a.m. Or 7 a.m. And at 6:57 every morning, Neuron would stand on my face and lift up my eyelids. Hi Lauren, how are you? It's the kitty. Well, you can come visit and see the kitty. Scox. Is it forgivable to be late, or does it become a soap opera? I feel your pain. So here's another soap opera thing. Neuron, when he was little, his favorite food was, you know, the cans of, they're like cat food, but they're like a meat in a gravy. So that was his favorite thing. He loved the little chewy bits. Recently, he's decided that he doesn't like the stuff. He only wants dry food, but his belly gets irritated if he only eats dry food, and then he sometimes poops blood, so we do need him to eat some wet food sometimes. So we got him what we thought was his favorite food, only he's decided he doesn't like the meat bits inside it, so he'll just drink the gravy. We don't even know how he does it. Will come back to his dish, and there's just like all these desiccated pieces of meat that he like took into his mouth, I guess, and like sucked the gravy out of and then spat back out. Yeah. And so he's been treating us to soap operas about how he's underprivileged because we don't give him enough gravy. But he doesn't eat his food. So he'll treat us to a soap opera about how he's so hungry and let me bring you to my dish. I will circle around you and walk you all the way to the kitchen, singing you the song of my people, and we get to the kitchen and it's full of food. Only it's like, is that the fluffy things we see at ponds? Possibly. These are milkweed. You would probably see them if you're walking along trails, or they might be around ponds too. Come Tuesday. How have you been? Have you been isolating? I thought you were going on all sorts of walks, Lauren. Which is good. I think you should go on all sorts of walks. But Jordan's high risk. Biking. Okay. Let me talk to Jordan about that. Toronto's still in lockdown too, is the other thing. So like the idea of getting on a train at this point when you're supposed to, or train or bus when you're supposed to be in lockdown, and come to another region that's not in lockdown, and so for anyone that's confused about what's going on, Lauren's my brother. And we would love to see him sometime, for him to visit, but, you know, the plague. The last time I saw a person was a month ago. Well, I thought they eased it now in some areas, but Toronto's still in lockdown. We're in code red, but like in QW, but Toronto's in lockdown. So yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about that, Lauren. I'll talk to Jordan. I've completely forgotten how to human in person. Oh gosh. Like, I have no idea. I keep thinking about that. I've had nightmares recently relating to travel. Where, like, in one of them, I dreamt that we had planned a trip to, I think, well, it was Thailand, but like, it didn't really matter where it was in this dream. And so we planned a trip before the pandemic, and then everything was locked down. So then, like 3 years later, we finally go on our trip, and for some reason, like, I just assumed that things had been rescheduled. Like, we had a whole series of like bus connections and different hotels we were supposed to stay at, and like the flights got rescheduled to 3 years later, but like I just assumed that everything else I'd booked also had. And that the schedules hadn't changed and stuff, so like we'd show up at a place in the middle of the day 3 years after we were supposed to be there and be surprised that the bus didn't leave at the same time. Then I had another nightmare where I was traveling to Brazil, and for some reason I chose to not bring my Canadian passport. I had like all my other Canadian ID and an expired Brazilian passport, and decided that that's how I'm going to travel to Brazil. And it worked, but it was like weird, and I had to talk to every customs agent, like persuade them that, you know, they should let me into the country. Hi, Val. How do I find the sketchbook so far? Well, working on cold press is an adjustment. So there's that. Otherwise, it seems fine. Muy. Yeah, sketchbook exchanges are fun for stuff like this. Where sort of by the nature of the sketchbook exchange, it kind of has to be a bit, you know, it's a standalone thing, so it frees me up to do whatever. So then, what if I take this guy? So this is a water-soluble graphite. Hey! And I'm going to make a mess. I love water-soluble graphite. The mess makes it much more fun. I love water-soluble graphite. I'm not a huge fan of just graphite. Find it smudges a little too easily, but I like water-soluble graphite because you can, move the smudge. Make it into, work that smudge to your advantage. Hi, Kelly. I was just talking about polychromos. So we spoke yesterday. I'm still have a little separation anxiety, but I started picking out the colored pencils I wanted to keep. And so something like this. I just need some time to figure it out. I spent the earlier part of this stream mostly just moaning about not being on top of things and not being having trouble keeping to a schedule, and yeah. Lauren, you can pick up a pencil anytime. Doodle, to-do lists. There are no contractual obligation to use one, only on school premises. Lauren, do you not use writing implements at all, or just not pencils? Because I found when I got out of high school that I sort of I moved to using mostly pens. I feel like in high school there might have been an expectation that things were done in pencil in a lot of cases. I do still sometimes use pencils, like right now I'm using a pencil, but a lot of the time I found that I was happier with different tools. Seems like a lot of us are feeling that way. Yeah, nothing, not even design network contract. That was electronic. Oh, okay. Yeah. I use pencils. Well, I use writing implements of some kind all the time. I wouldn't want to give them up. Both for writing and for art stuff like this. I love pencils almost as much as fountain pens. Lee Eckel, you might be disappointed with what's in your package then. Oh? Okay. I was expecting paint. Now I'm curious. I'm sure I won't be disappointed, Kelly. Whatever it is, I'm sure it'll be lovely. Bye, Lauren. Feel bad as I'm not sending any gifts. No, don't feel bad. So Kelly's being an enabler because I'm doing a no spend or low spend year, and I'm not buying myself paints, but then Joy was experimenting with jadeite, was it? One of the Daniel Smith Primatex, and mixed it with Nicolazzo yellow, and it came out really lovely. And so I'm looking forward to experimenting with some Permatech paint, but of course I didn't get it before starting the no spend. So I'm sending some stuff to Kelly, getting rid of some stuff out of my studio, and she's sending me some paint for me to try out. And also apparently maybe some other stuff. But in general, I certainly do not need more stuff in my life. So even with Kelly, I'm sending her a bunch of stuff too. Namely, most of my set of polychromos probably, although I haven't had the energy to go through and figure out which ones I'm keeping. And then also some paints that I don't use as much. Can't leave the enabler. Yeah, jadeite. Okay, I had a moment there where I was like, I think it was jadeite, but we had this conversation like a month ago. It was like maybe it was some other. Would it be weird if I said it was jadeite and it's actually, one of the other greens? I can't even think of, like, I have green apatite, I have serpentine, so I'm pretty sure it's jadeite, but I've been enabling a bit on Ev's Discord. Supply swaps can be heckin' useful. Yeah. Got some new paper to test. Well, I have some new paper I got last year that I just haven't worked on yet, but that I'm excited about. That's a soft press from Fabriano. In general, I'm just using the supplies I have, but I do expect that I will be buying paper sometime this year, just when I run out. But see how long it does take me to really do something with it. Probably which paper? Yeah, which a Derwent Light Fast paper. The paper is light fast? Huh? Aren't wet? Like it just doesn't have any brighteners in it. As long as it's acid free and it doesn't have any brighteners, paper shouldn't change colors. The paper is supposed to be for their light fast pencils. Interesting. Do they say how it interacts differently with the pencils than other papers? Sorry, I'm sort of... I think I've missed some messages. There was some question, I think, about what I'm drawing or painting here. So this is a dry milkweed pod I picked up down the street. And I am using Aquarius paints as well as some water-soluble graphite to try to explore what I can do with building some textures on this. So this is sea white paper. This is a sketchbook exchange sketchbook. This is Lindsay's sketchbook. It's a cold press surface, lightly textured. So milkweed as in swan plant. Swan plant. I've never heard that term. Milkweed as in the flower that butterflies, that monarch butterflies use as a larval host. So these are the pods, and they split open in the winter, so they're like a these would be closed like almost like an okra sort of shape, and then they split open and they have all of these fluffy bits inside which eventually fly away. The scientific name is Asclepias syriaca, if it's common milkweed, if you want to look it up. Oh, is swan plant a Southern Hemisphere or British common name? I did not know if it was universal. I've never heard that before. It might be the same plant. There are different kinds of milkweed. It is native to, like, milkweed as a plant is native to the Americas, North and South America. And monarch butterflies have a very, very long they travel through the winter, so they come up here and they breed on northern milkweed plants, and then they travel south and they feed on southern milkweed plants through the winter. And apparently there's enough prevailing winds through the world that monarch butterflies along their migration actually frequently enough get blown by the wind and end up on other continents. But prior to just a few years ago, you wouldn't see populations of monarch butterflies. Like, you would see the occasional monarch butterfly as far away as Australia, but you wouldn't see populations of monarch butterflies in Australia. And now that people have planted milkweed in Australia, there are native monarch butterflies that have settled in Australia. They've just been blown by the wind. So Yeah. Yeah, monarch butterfly plant equals a swan plant. Okay, cool. No one here has heard of swan plant? Yeah, I've never heard that term. We just call it milkweed. But doesn't make you wrong, just a different term that I had not heard. We have a big monarch butterfly population locally, and as kids we'd plant swan plants at school and wait for the monarchs to find it. Yeah, right. Okay, yeah, that makes sense to me. So that's kind of the neat thing about monarch butterflies is because they have this long migration. Somewhere along the trip from southern Canada to Mexico, they get picked up by winds, and they do land in far away places where they get carried by the wind and they land in Australia or New Zealand. And that has always happened, but before there was milkweed in Australia and New Zealand, because it's native to northern and southern, it's native to the Americas. Before there was milkweed, the monarch butterflies, they'd be there for a generation at most. So you would see the occasional monarch butterfly that just got carried by the wind, but they wouldn't breed. They can eat other things, but they wouldn't have a larval host. And so then people started planting milkweed, and so now there are native populations of monarch butterflies, like monarch butterflies that breed in Australia and New Zealand, that live there. It's kind of neat. It doesn't seem to be disrupting the environment in any other way. It's just interesting. I grew up about 10 miles from a monarch butterfly sanctuary. They are beautiful creatures. They really are. I've been having fun planting larval host plants, not just for monarch butterflies, but like all sorts of different butterflies and other pollinator species. So another fun one. So everyone knows the milkweed for monarchs thing. Certainly in North America, it's a big trend. You know, plant milkweeds to bring back the monarchs. But there's other less common, less iconic butterflies. So one of them is the Carner blue butterfly. which is critically endangered, and it's extirpated in Canada. So I'm on the northern end of what was originally the Carner Blue range. And they no longer exist in Canada. They do still exist in the United States, just a little bit further south, but they're critically threatened as well. And their main food source is the sundial lupin. Their sole larval host and primary food source. I mean, they'll eat other things, but their larval host is the sundial lupin. And lupins are very common, but they very easily cross with other lupin species. So the West Coast lupin, the Russell lupin, is more commonly planted because it has a brighter and closer spaced blooms. So it's, more popular. And so people will plant that in their garden, and then it'll cross with the native one, and the Carner blue butterfly won't recognize it as their larval host. Thus, they are extirpated in Ontario. And, it just is my pet project. Obviously, I can't do anything about this on my own, but I've been planting sundial lupins in my yard because I think that having blue butterflies brought back would be really neat. I should dig them out and share for reference. Yes, absolutely. I love sweet pods and pineapple and passion flower and lotus. I like pine cones. Yes, I also love pine cones. Ooh, cones. Yes, I love seed pods and cones and pineapple and passion flower and lotus. I love all of these things too, but we will avoid the lotus for those who have trypophobia. Dried cotton pods are also, oh yes, cotton is really neat. Okay, I'm gonna add some of this brown out in here just to keep things interesting. Maybe add a little bit in here. Is there a specific milkweed that attracts monarchs? No, so there's two distinct populations of monarch, a southern monarch, an eastern monarch and a western monarch. They are very slightly different. And it would be interesting to know which ones ended up in New Zealand. I would suspect probably the western monarchs are the ones that you would find in New Zealand because they are wind carried. I'm not actually sure about the prevailing winds thing. Which ones would get carried over? Sorry. They have different types of milkweed that they eat. Some of them are native to different areas. Now, they are triggered for their migration by the fruiting cycle of milkweed. So one problem in it particularly affects the western monarchs is that people will plant tropical milkweed, which is the Mexican species, and they'll plant it fairly far north on the west coast, and it won't go to seed. It'll stay in bloom, so they'll still have nectar, so they won't get the cue that they're supposed to be migrating. So there's non-migrating monarchs that then end up dying in winter. So that's a problem, but otherwise throughout the year they will consume and use as a larval host all the different species of milkweed. Now they do have some favorites. So for example, there's something called butterfly milkweed, which is really pretty. It's a slightly smaller version. It's like a neater, tidier, more garden friendly milkweed. Milkweed can look kind of weedy. And it functions just fine as a larval host. But given the choice between the common milkweed or a bog milkweed or a showy milkweed or the butterfly milkweed, they will choose any of the others. So I've got, for example, butterfly milkweed in my front yard because, again, it's a front yard and I'm trying to make it look attractive. I've got vegetables and stuff in there too. And I can plant butterfly milkweed in there and it looks fine, but it's not really the monarch's favorite type of milkweed. They will, however, still consume it. California species. Yeah. Sorry, is that the California species that's found in New Zealand? Of the monarchs? Anyway, there's a whole bunch of different milkweed species. If you are planting milkweed for monarch butterflies, the important thing isn't so much any specific given species other than try to choose one that is native to your area. So if you're not in a tropical area, and even though the tropical milkweed looks really cool, don't plant tropical milkweed if you're not in a tropical area, because it's just going to confuse them. And if you're not in a tropical area, they cannot overwinter where you are. You have such a delicate hand and eye. Oh, thank you. Okay, I'm gonna throw in some water-soluble graphite in here. I'm gonna put you on my iPad so I can see the detail. Would it be, should I just bring this in closer? Will that help? I had it further away and so that people could see more of what I was doing, but this might give you more detail. I think I'm probably going to keep going for a while here. So I'm gonna plug my phone in so that we don't get disconnected when I missed the beginning, which paints in tin. Okay, so I have a White Knight's tin that I've put Roman Schmal paints in. So this is sorry. It's a custom set, so it's not something that you can, you could buy, well, I mean, you could buy all of these paints and buy this tin, but it's not, it's not a pre-made set that I got anywhere. Roman Schmal sent me a number of paints to review at 2 different times, and I also bought some of his paints. So I have Roman Schmal Aquarius paints, quite a few of them. And I decided to make a set of just those paints. So this is not all of the Roman Schmal paints I have, but it's a lot of them. There's 28 in here. And yeah, that's what I'm using. I'm trying to stick to some like very heavily granulating colors and also mixing in some water-soluble graphite. Anyway, I'm gonna go get my cable to plug in my phone. And this one, oh, this beautiful thing. Oh man, it's so beautiful. Here, let me clean it up because I'm a slob. But then I'll sample it for you because this is absolutely the most beautiful color. Oh, it's so nice. So this is Roman Schmal's, what is it called? Cobalt Sea Blue. Oh, it's so pretty. It's the prettiest turquoise. Oh, so nice. I like it so much. Oh, this isn't showing up like how I want it to. Let's get you some. This is coming off like more muted than it really is on my screen here. I assure you this is like a neon turquoise. It's so pretty. Oh, you're mixing the graphite with the paints? Yes. Yeah. So I've got water-soluble graphite in pencil form. I actually have some graphite pigment, which I'm planning on making into a watercolor paint. Do I get you to swatch that every time? I mean, it probably would be pretty easy to get me to swatch that every time because it's such a pretty color. How do I like the paper so far? Well, I mean, I'm going to be honest that I still have a gag reaction to textured paper. I like my paper super smooth. It's working fine. There's nothing wrong with it from a painting point of view. It's just a like personal problems issue. Whose book is this? This is Lindsay's book. So Lindsay, wait, sorry, let me get this out of the way a little bit. It's a sea white book. And Lindsay has a little travel passport, front page, Sidonia the sketchbook, and a lovely little mug sketch. I'm doing H2 here. Okay, I really do need to plug in my phone. So I'll be right back. All right, back. Yeah, so mixing the graphite and water-soluble graphite in, it mutes down the colors and adds a sort of like gritty, sketchy feeling to the whole thing, which sometimes is what I want. Like, these aren't really a very bright, you know, smooth sort of subject. So having this worn down, sort of sketched in roughness to the art itself, as well as, you know, painting what I see. I figured would help communicate that a little. Maybe we can work you in, Joy. Yeah. I believe that the sketchbooks coming out of Australia are likely to be batched anyway. So if you want to join in before or after Australia, we could just slot you in and there would just be one sketchbook to add in, or you might miss one sketch or something. There's just no way I'll cope with this pressure. Joy. I mean, I don't, like, I want to be conscious of adding pressure to people, but like, really, this is we are trying to be very, very easygoing about all of our various things here. So I hope we're not adding too much pressure to anyone. I might just have to get Lee to sell me a print, happily. Yeah, I just need to start up my print shop again. You know what I need? I need an assistant. I need someone to do fulfillment for me. That's what I need. If someone can do fulfillment for me, then I will happily sell whatever. I cannot be counted on to send things out on time. It just adds too much pressure that I don't want or need in my life. So I stopped selling prints because it was just too much. Can I be your manager? Absolutely. Yes, please. Yes, 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 please. I need a manager to tell me when to work. Get up, do your job. Here's what you're doing today. Can you make me a schedule, Joy? I'll pay you. Joy, but I would never be able to do my simple etchings next to what I would think is great works of art. Oh no, 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 that's not, no, no, no. Okay, so first of all, any artist who you admire, who you think is so much more skilled than whatever than you, keep in mind that we all started at the same place. When we were little, we all couldn't hold pencils when we were little toddlers. And we all went through all of the stages of not being able to draw things in proportion and not being able to control our brushes and not being able to whatever. So whatever stage you're on, whether it's like the very first time that you've picked up a pencil to draw stick figures since primary school, or whether you've been a professional artist for years and years and years and years, everyone who you admire has been through that stage. And you know, I'm sure that others will comment with similar things, but I am just as thrilled to receive a sketch that's somebody's first time sketch that they're just like really trying really hard on, and it's the first time that they've ever picked up paint, as I am to receive something that, you know, somebody who's been practicing for years and years and years and years has done. That is totally not the point of the sketchbook is not to get art that impresses me in a technical sense. I am impressed by the effort, not by the result. I have managers to tell me when to work. I prefer your lifestyle. You know, sometimes I love my lifestyle. A lot of the time I love my lifestyle. I have my dream job. It's kind of great. But especially during the pandemic, but also just in like more generally, I mean, there's two sides to this coin. First of all, it doesn't mean that I don't have a manager. I do have a manager. My manager is in my head all the time. It's Sunday. What are you doing? Why aren't you working? You lazy slob. Get to work. Get to work. Why are you so lazy? Get to work. So that's one side, is my manager's a real bitch and she's in my head all the time. Yeah. And then the other side to that is when it's the middle of a pandemic and I don't have too many outside responsibilities. Like I'm not teaching very many classes. I'm not going to meetings with people. I'm not even meeting with my studio mates at the studio, so I don't have anyone keeping me on a schedule. It's very easy to procrastinate, and with ADHD especially, like keeping track of schedules and keeping myself motivated when there's no one to tell me, to give me any kind of structure other than myself. I can fall into patterns where I'm still beating myself up for not doing work, but I'm not really being very efficient or getting much done. So. So I'm not really sure exactly how to do that, but I really do have a feeling like, yeah, having someone else to create some structure about, like, here's your time block and here's what you're working on today and how did that go and what are you going to do next. Just some kind of minor accountability to someone. And then someone to, ideally, like once I can afford it, and I'm not that far off, I'd have someone do all of the other like non-art part of my work. So somebody to edit videos, somebody to reply to emails and schedule social media posts and etc., 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 and ship out prints and etc., so that I can just paint. Maybe with a camera on me, maybe talk, but not just work on like actual content creation rather than all the extra other stuff. I never managed to impress myself with my art. Perfectionism is what makes me try harder. Different artists have different motivations. For me, it's all about process. Like when I look at my finished art, no matter what it is, I always feel like I always, looking at my art, I always feel like I know what, I look at this piece, for example, and I don't, it's not that I think it's bad necessarily, but I'm never going to look at or very rarely do I look at my art and think, wow, this is really pretty art, like how I would look at someone else's art. I'm always looking at my art like, here's the next thing that something that I learned from it and what I would do different next time. So switch up the order of my graphite so that I have more graphite underneath and it's more even, and try to work in more different types of granulating colors. Etc. I've not had on real pants in a year. Well, so in fairness, even before the pandemic, it was a running joke with me and some of my friends that, there were two things. One of them was there was a running joke at the studio where like our studio password, like our password for our Wi-Fi at one point was like no pants o'clock or something. And just because we all have keys. So I'm in my home studio right now. Oh my God. Every time I say this, I feel so like, this is such a first world thing. So I have a home studio, which I've been working out of primarily, but I also have a shared studio that's outside of the home. So like an office that I work out of. And we would joke because all the members of the studio have keys that, we all show up there wearing our see-through pants, so it's a little awkward when someone brings a guest or something. Because one of my studio mates would show up late at night and she'd just wear her leggings, the ones that she wouldn't wear outside of the house because they've got see-through. They're too stretched out. So we joked around about like, oh, it's no pants o'clock at the studio, or it's see-through pants o'clock, or we're gonna scare away, oh, is somebody causing trouble at the studio? We'll bring in my studio mate in her see-through pants to scare them away. So that was part one, and then the other thing was one of my friends started teasing me because I would never wear, like, I wouldn't wear normal pants. I wouldn't wear jeans, just ever, because I work from home or I work from a studio where it doesn't matter. So I'd be like, I already lived in sweatpants and yoga pants and like not real pants. And then the pandemic hit, and I have to say, like, I thought I didn't get dressed before. I don't know. I'm not fit to be seen. So I don't even go to the grocery store anymore. So there's not even like a like, oh, I don't even bother with like, oh, these are the dressy sweatpants anymore. Nope. Roll out of bed. Okay, I'm a little stinky. I'll switch into different sweatpants. I feel really good about some of the art I've done, and then I feel more pressure when I start another thing. I've definitely had that feeling. And sometimes I'll put pressure on myself, like I want to do more more work that has, for example, more of a complex composition was the one that, oh my goodness, I kind of screwed myself up because I had this idea of like, this is where my art needs to go. This is the change that I need to make. These are the improvements. And then I would psych myself out and I wouldn't want to start at all because I didn't know. I set myself too much of a challenge, I guess. I heard this on YouTube. Our skills are about 3 to 5 years behind the art in our head. Yeah, that makes sense. But certainly, like, I wouldn't worry about, oh, I don't want to share my art because someone who's more skilled than me might see it and judge me. Like, they are not going to judge you because they've been there. Like, if they are genuinely more skilled than you, then they've been through, like, they've had to solve the same problem that you're struggling with right now. So, just like, that's just not a thing to worry about at all. So this is a concept, for example, with this milkweed. I'm working on this in a sketchbook, but I've had this idea for a while of making a page with a lot more of this sort of stuff. Sort of like how you have in a field, you'll have a whole bunch of these dry pods, and just doing a sort of like winter pods scene with a bunch of different dry pods from different plants, all an interesting composition. Just to sort of explore, you know, it's I think we're all tempted by all the fun, interesting stuff that grows in the summer. Or better yet, tropical things that don't grow near us at all. But to really appreciate some of the stuff that is around in the off season, I guess. There's a local home decor, like they're home decorators, and they run a gift shop, home decor store, that have bought some of my work before to sell on. And so they were interested in that series. So but I've been kind of scared of approaching this. So sometimes working in a sketchbook where this isn't something I'm going to sell, it's just a way of experimenting with some ideas. Then that helps sometimes. Yes, you absolutely do need to try and draw a pine cone. That would be really fun. Since I'm your manager now, let's have a meeting sometime about the book you dream of doing. That would be great. I would love to have a meeting about that book. Maybe get me on a schedule to get that done, huh? I still want to use my Faber-Castell duster on the sketchbook. On my sketchbook, because of all this like grime here. What sort of book? Like how to art or illustrating North American natural history? Oh, and of course now I had paint on my fingers, so now I've got a. This isn't gonna come off now. There's just a spot. Sorry, Lindsay. I messed up your sketchbook. There's a spot on it now. Well, I was thinking probably some more theory-based, but sort of like more in depth. You know, not the very, very basic how to art, how to crosshatch, how to whatever. I feel like there's a lot of that content, but a little bit more of the deep dives that I do on my YouTube channel and my blog about color theory and whatever and that sort of stuff. And probably using natural science illustration as a sort of example. Hey, I'm back from the walk. Hi. Flowers look amazing. Thank you. They're really seed pods, but yeah. Thanks. Appreciate it. How to mix green. Your blog always comes up when I search mixing green or transparent yellow. Yeah, I have on my to-do list for the channel, I have a rant about yellows. But yeah, that sort of stuff, talking about color theory and value and foreshortening proportion. Foreground, midground, background. It's a big eye opener for me to start mixing reds into greens to get more natural greens. Yeah, that's... Our eyes play a lot of tricks on us. Anyway, I find that a lot of art instruction is perhaps almost by design, but it's like almost anti-scientific, where it's like, we'll just give you some, I don't know, woo reasons about like, oh, you know, let's talk about harmony and pleasing compositions, and that's always been a bit tough for me to get behind. Where I'm always searching for something that's just a little bit more you know, well, why do our eyes see this way? Like, what? Tell me why. Tell me why. Explain to me why. And so, you know, some of that is stuff that I explore on my blog, and I do think that at some point there's a book to be made there. There's a book there somewhere, hiding. Yeah, how learning to compare dark to light, saturated to unsaturated, warm to cool. Yes, and like approaching colors. I mean, even that, like I talk about which pigments I like and stuff, but I think that there's something to be said for like a lot of art books will tell you, you know, you need to get these paints from this brand. Or even you need to get these pigments, and that, you know, that's just not ever true. You can paint with any pigments, and like it doesn't, you know, you might develop your favorites. I've developed my favorites, but just talking from a more fundamental sense of like you're translating a three-dimensional scene into 2 dimensions, and you know, how does that work? How do you communicate different things? Why do different colors convey different moods? How can you use that to your advantage? They can't tell you why because it's more like social sciences. Well, but I feel like a lot of that can be explained. It's just not like there's a choice in arts education to you know, not delve into the scary science behind things, but that doesn't mean that the scary science doesn't apply. It just means that the people teaching it don't want to learn it. But you know, that's me. But I think that's probably where I feel like I could contribute. Yeah, there's definitely things that I've had to think about consciously. A big example for me is I've always, for whatever reason, I've always thought that things that are further back in a scene would be darker. And certainly in natural light, outdoors, it's the opposite. Things that are further back are lighter, and things that are further forward are darker and have higher contrast. And so it's a thing that I consciously need to keep thinking about, like even right here where I'm like, you know, trying to balance this and create some depth within my painting, is like, no, I need to save my darkest darks to put in here. So I feel like our first meeting will start fleshing out some chapters. I wholly approve. Thank you. You are a wonderful person and exactly what I need in my life. From the point of view of uh, natural science illustration, I think that there's some discussion there too about like what the purpose of natural science illustration is. And there's a lot of discussion within, for example, botanical art about there are conventions and standards, things that botanical artists do because this is how we do things, that, you know, we tend to, as artists, just accept like this is how botanical art is done. And you know, sometimes there's a reason for it, where like, for example, botanical art, what I'm doing right now, it's on a white background. And there is a reason for that. Why the standard for botanical art is to not paint a background. And that is because a background can be distracting, because the point is to communicate the structure of the plant. But in some cases, like for example here, I have some white fluff on it. So maybe it might be more useful to have a different colored background to show what the white fluff looks like on, you know, against that white background, against that not white background rather. Actually, I reckon we could get the whole Discord assisting. That would be pretty cool. My pet peeve is to use saturated blues for distance. When you add atmosphere, things move towards middle tone and bluish gray. Yeah. So like just a lot of, there's just a lot of that sort of stuff that's just, there's some knowledge there, and there's a, you know, I feel like in realism there's this drive to, well, you just paint what you see and you just paint it as it is, and that you know, that's good to a point, but I feel like fairly quickly you reach a point where, yes, I mean, to some extent you're painting what you see, but you are also, like, there's always choices that you're making. You know, are you making colors? Are you focusing on colors? Or are you washing them out slightly? How are you positioning your subject? What's the center of interest? Like, and you know, you can pretend like that's not a thing, and oh, I'm just going to paint the colors the way they are and exactly the way they are. But in that case, you're just taking the agency away. It's not, you're still making that choice. You're just, you know, refusing to let it be a conscious choice. That makes sense. So I think that, you know, being aware of the role of the artist in making choices and how you're creating your work. I feel like botanical art, and I have to be careful saying this because I am still officially the president of a botanical art association, and not everyone agrees with me on this, but I feel like botanical art is very rigid in terms of what is defined as botanical art, by contrast to some other fields within natural science illustration, and that botanical art as a field would do well to embrace a wider variety of expression. The viewer of the art doesn't see the original, so what is on the paper needs to make sense, even if I need to change things. The drawing is communication. Yes, exactly. So in the same way as you have choices, as a writer has choices about, a technical writer is writing facts, ideally, but you still have choices about how you write those facts. And it matters, for instance, who the audience is. So, you can write a science book for 5-year-olds, or you can write a science book for biologists, or you can write a science book for physicists, or you can write a science book for the layman adult. And, those are 4 different science books that you're going to write differently. And that doesn't mean that one of them is less factual than the others. It's just different. And likewise, botanical art, scientific illustration can be all of those things. You can do scientific illustration for 5-year-olds, and it's going to look different than scientific illustrations for botanists. It's going to look different than scientific illustrations for National Geographic. We're making a new channel on the server for your book, right? Sure, we can make a new channel on the server for my book. I believe botanical art is good as is, but there's definitely a place for alternative illustration styles. You know what really got me was I always felt like botanical art, and it's not the definition of botanical art, it's just the botanical art community, always felt a little rigid, where, people will post a painting and it has a background or it has some other stuff in it, and oh, that's not botanical art because it's got, say, an insect beside the plant, or because it's drawn in a sort of cartoony style, or, any other number of reasons. And I always felt like that's not quite right. And then I went to a conference for the Guild of Natural Science Illustrators. So that's still scientific illustration, but different, a wider range of scientific illustration. Stop, did I hear well? Are you writing a book, Lee? Maybe eventually. I would love to write a book. I feel like there's a lot of content that has, that's on the blog, or that, could be a future blog post or whatever, that eventually would coalesce into a book. That there's a lot of things that I have written or that I would be interested in writing that I feel like they belong in a book together, but Joy has embraced her official role as my manager. Look at that painting. I'm ready to give you money. Okay, well, how about I start by launching my Patreon, and y'all can give me money. This painting is for Lindsay, though. So it's Lindsay's sketchbook. So this particular painting is going to Lindsay, and the book will happen when the book happens. Ooh, what are your Patreon plans? I think that I'm going to have a base tier. Like, I use Patreon. Well, actually, I mean, okay, so maybe I'll ask here. I use Patreon as a sort of tip jar thing, where I'm on the lowest tier for a lot of the artists I support. And I just try to spread it around. And so I'm giving, $1 or $2 or $5 to a bunch of different people. Where can I sign up for to your Patreon. Well, it's not launched, so, you know, as soon as I launch it, I'll post it on the Discord. That kind of you don't belong here mentality is all over programming languages too, artificial. Okay, I'll get back to that in a moment. Patreon. So I support a bunch of artists on Patreon where I just give them like a base amount. So my inclination with Patreon is to sort of treat mine like that, where rather than having a bunch of different reward tiers, I just have a couple of basic things where it's like, you know, I just have 2 or 3 tiers. And one of them's really low where it's like, hey, you know, it's $1 or $2 a month, and kind of plant is that. This is milkweed. So these are milkweed pots. These are dried. I just picked them up outside. Anyway, so just, you know, a basic tier where you'll get a little bit of extra content, some photos, some sketches, some extra, you know, life stuff that I wouldn't necessarily put super publicly. Just in the Discord stream, or in the Patreon stream. And then something a little bit more, and then some like very high tier where it's like, oh, well, if you want coaching or something, if you want to pay me if you really want to pay like $50 a month or something, then you can get an hour-long session once a month or something. Also, are the splatter smudges on the background? Well, nothing here is on purpose. And some of it isn't actually. Some of it is just not even there. Some of that is just eraser shavings. This is not on purpose, but it's there now. Anyway, so one option is to have some very, very basic tiers, and I don't really have much in the way of like mailed rewards, just because then that's easier for me, and because personally that's how I use Patreon. But I guess I also want to hear from you. Like, are rewards, like, do you guys sign up for Patreon because you want dot cards and postcards and stuff? Like, do you sign up for Patreon for the rewards, or do you sign up for Patreon for supporting an artist and getting a little bit of extra? Yeah. The 1 hour coaching is difficult to maintain if you get many more followers and supporters. Well, yeah, I mean, so then you would you make it a very high tier, and you can also limit tiers. So, you know, you have a max number. So this is just the drawing. Like, these things are just, yeah, that's part of the plant. I don't like the rewards because it's not environmentally friendly, but I like the coaching idea. Right, so I could do that where I have just a basic tier, and then a like, oh, well, you support me a little bit more and I something. And then, you know, one tier that's way up where like you really, really want to support me and you want to get some lessons, then you can pay me whatever it is, 50, 60 bucks a month. I personally use Patreon as a tip jar when I'm supporting other people. So, that's just my inclination, because I don't want a bunch of different stuff from a bunch of different artists. So I generally deliberately sign up for a lower tier. You used to have 15-minute coaching for skating and then group lessons for, well, so yeah, so that could be a thing where it's like for, say for the base amount, it's $1 or $2 or whatever. And that's just a tip jar. And then I use Ko-fi the same way. Patreon feels very intimidating to me. So I have Ko-fi. And I get occasional, but Patreon's nice because it's it's an ongoing thing. So it gives a clear idea of what your base salary is. So what even if I make nothing else this month, then I'm gonna get however many hundred from Patreon. Yeah, I've done some coaching. Patreon does allow you to limit the number of people in a tier. So I could say, there's only so many hours in a month. I can only support this many people at that tier. But also if you make it high enough, it's self-limiting in a way. And then I could have like a middle tier that's it's an extra stream, or it's a more personal stream maybe, where it's like, a Q&A and you get to see my face. You get to talk to me directly or something. I don't know. This is why I don't have a Patreon, is because this is thoughts that I haven't devoted much time to. Okay. All right. Next, let's get these ones in. Sorry. So back to the botanical art exclusionary thing. I've felt like botanical art, the field, like the people, not the definition of botanical art strictly, but the people organizing the shows, the people in the leading the organizations, obviously excluding myself, my organization. But even the Botanical Artists of Canada, because it's not just me there. I feel like there's a sense of, botanical art is this way. This is what botanical art looks like. It has to be realistic. You can't see stray brush marks. You can't have colors that aren't in natural light. You shouldn't have backgrounds. You shouldn't have things that aren't plants in your painting. You shouldn't, whatever. And I feel like that's a little destructive and exclusionary, and leads to the problem where this is a dying field, unfortunately. do you want to do? Because good ideas for Patreon could work at pulling you away from what you want to do, or it could work with it. Well, yes, so that's the other concern with Patreon, is I look at a lot of Patreon ideas, and there's a lot of people who build a Patreon on, you know, they have 7 different tiers, and they're shipping out physical rewards. And to be honest, there's a reason why I don't have a shop right now. To go interact with the other humans in the house. Thanks a lot for the stream. Bye. Bye, Paolo. I'll chat with you later. Human interaction is good. Yeah, so I have had that thought where, you know, ideally, in a perfect world, I would just be creating the content that I want to create. So I would be, and that's not just painting, but I really enjoy blogging. I actually enjoy the video creation, like the video part of YouTube. Editing is a pain, but I enjoy structuring videos and like that, you know, the communication part of video making. So ideally, I would do all of those things. And I would have someone else, like my manager, well, I would hire someone else to do the other stuff, whether it's order fulfillment or video editing or etc. And obviously that's something that's going to take some time and funding. I'm a one-person startup, and I can only afford to pay for so much help. But I worry with Patreon that it's tempting to get into, well, I'm going to do 1 million rewards, but then I'm stuck creating 1 million rewards and mailing them out when I would rather be not doing that. So that's definitely a thought. Coaching is wonderful. Coaching is wonderful. And especially actually like the pandemic weirdly opened up a lot of like private coaching opportunities that weren't there before. Where it used to be that private coaching online was a thing that was open, I mean, mostly to like extremely famous artists. You know, nobody was signing up to do a coaching session with a local artist with a small following. Because why would you? Because there's always classes around and you get some more out of that. But coaching is wonderful because coaching, I find I learn a lot through teaching. Just, you know, students will bring up questions and in a way that like, you know, they're problems that maybe at some level I've already addressed in my own work, but that I haven't really thought about. And so thinking about them really brings them to the fore and helps with sorry. I must sound really weird talking and painting at the same time because I keep on pausing because I'm distracted by the painting. What was I saying? Do an instruction video as a tier and then just have access somewhere to answer their questions as they go. Yeah. So I could have a middle tier that's like a less personal instruction thing that's, you know, it's a group instruction thing where you sign on and there's a demo or questions and answers or something. Yeah, I feel like those three things, geeking out, creating art on camera, and coaching, could be delivered via Patreon. Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And I think I just have to be careful with, you know, if I'm going to be doing any physical rewards, to really limit that. Because I just, like, I don't have the bandwidth to be creating a postcard every month and mailing it out. That would really eat into my ability to do other things that I would rather be doing. And yes, I think that coaching has been, you know, the pandemic, one of the neat things about the pandemic is that it has really, really opened up a lot of opportunities for coaching. For someone like me, where like it's not, you know, I have a following, but it's not a massive following. Most of the world doesn't know who I am. Most of the art world doesn't know who I am. Most of the natural science, most of the natural science art world knows who I am, but to get, you know, enough of a customer base in something like online coaching, that's something that actually the pandemic, as horrible as it is, has helped with, where people are interested in that. And since the pandemic has started, I have actually done some individualized coaching, and it is lovely. It's really nice because you get people who have very specific wants in terms of what they want to address. You can really pay attention to that, and you don't have to juggle like competing needs and try to figure out if somebody's feeling left out or left behind. You're working with one person. If there were any physical rewards, I would probably just want postcards because I actually send them to people. Yeah, I mean, if anything, I would do like quarterly or yearly, like just and you know, I will send you out a postcard once a year or something. It's probably not super frequently, just because I know that fulfillment is a thing that I struggle with, and you know, I wouldn't want to disappoint anyone. Anyway, so I can definitely do that, and I'll make a book channel on the Discord. And I am feeling okay right now. Usually around this time I'm getting pretty tired, but I'm actually feeling okay, so I'm gonna keep painting. I know that it's getting late for some of you, but my phone's plugged in and I could just keep painting, so I'm just gonna stay on for a bit. Coaching is more valuable too because you can use it and not have to keep adding art to limited walls. Yeah, exactly. And then I've been looking into some dropship options for prints and products. So I might do that for postcards, etc. I have a cuddled up cat. I have nowhere to go. That's wonderful. There can also be like a coaching session to a lower tier, but like once a year instead of monthly. Right. Yeah, that's true. I might even just do that as an extra. Where I have like a group session and then I have a whatever. I'm also probably going to add it onto my website as a thing that you can buy once. And then it's just more expensive if you buy it as a one-time thing versus if you have an ongoing agreement. The problem with yearly rewards is that you're billed monthly, but I just read about yearly billing on Patreon. Oh, interesting. But yes, exactly. I do question some things like big rewards where it's like, if you sign up for $100 a month, I will send you a full set of all my favorite watercolors. Like, okay, cool. When will I send them? Because like, if you're gonna be paying $100 a month, I would happily send that once a year, but not on the first month. Well, some offer like a reward after a certain amount of months, so it'd be like that, yeah. Yep. Yeah, and I mean, that's another choice, is if you have a higher tier where it's like you can offer coaching, or you know, some offer on original art. Like if you have someone who really wants to support you, but they are not an artist themselves, they don't feel like having coaching, they just want art. Like, okay, well, you know, you can buy a painting. You will get 8x10, whatever, commission after a year. What was the blue gray you put down before the brown? Sorry, let me look that up. I'm not sure what I put in this. Where did I swatch these? In here. Sorry, I have a whole bunch of paints from Roman Schmal, and I made some choices about which ones I'm putting in here, but I don't really remember. Shadow Violet. So mostly Shadow Violet, although I also put in a bit of Aquarius Black, a little bit of them, and some of them have some Van Dyke Brown as well. I also rearranged some stuff in here, so not all of this is in its original order. Yeah, this is a Roman Schmal palette. I don't usually do much in the way of like single brand dedicated palettes, but because I had so many Roman Schmal paints, because I got sent them. Which one is second in the row? This one. This is called Misty Morning. Okay. It's one of the new paints from Roman Schmal. And it's got like a cobalt teal and a quinacridone rose. They separate out and they make like a really wild sort of pinky purpley thing. Yeah, so Roman Schmal has a lot of unique pigments as well as a lot of sort of wild stuff like this. So as it dries, you'll see it separates out, so you get some like more tealy spots and some more pinky areas. Joy says, I love how distracting we are. You know what? I think it works for me. This is like on the topic of I need a manager, like ADHD management. Let's throw in some of that too. Is some amount of like just light distraction, just enough to keep me engaged in sitting here, interested in painting, where otherwise I tend to either hyper focus or I just can't get anything done at all. So this is sort of keeping me here, half focused. It's working out all right. Not minding it at all. You agree on the compensation? Yeah, Joy, how much am I paying you? You don't need any manager anymore, though. The position is now mine. Have I mentioned how much I like seed pods and cones and like it may have come up once or twice. So the joy of seeing me produce a book would be considerable compensation. It would definitely not. Joy, you deserve to be compensated for your efforts. You will find that managing me takes effort. That would be worth the shipping from Canada. Yes. Okay. That I agree with. See, when I produce a book, you all are welcome to buy it. And of course my manager gets a free copy, but you know, I'm also an advocate for people need to be paid what they're worth. And I need a manager. Paid in postcards of seed pods and cones and lichen. All right, well, we will negotiate what proper payment looks like. I kind of want this painting to be in the book, like the cover, how it all started. Well, I am planning on scanning this, and I've been low on Instagram content lately. Because I've been low on content generally, because I've been not very productive, because I've been undermanaged. But now I have a manager, so you know that's gonna get fixed. Lindsay would have the famous original. Yeah, there we go. Tell you what, if I get well, I honestly don't know what I'd do for paid employment. Well, the thing is, I don't really have the budget to pay for full-time right now, or even really half-time, but I do expect to get some value out of having a manager. And so we can work with what your capacity is. I feel like Lee is already very adequately managed by herself. You do not understand how unproductive I have been for the past several months. I've had times in my life where the built-in manager is just fine. The pandemic or whatever these health issues are have really taken a toll on, it's not really my ability to work, it's my ability to manage myself.
problem is clearly going to end with an amazing manager like Joy. Yes, exactly. Instagram doesn't really like me nowadays. My reach metric isn't great. I'm starting to get used to it. Instagram is so weird. I had a moment there where, you know, everything was going great and then it just sort of stalled. And then I lost interest a little. Yeah. Built-in manager needed to be kind to me this year. Like Lee already. Well, okay, but then how many artists achieve what she has as a viable job? Okay, but there's a level of privilege here that, you know, I have to acknowledge, which is certainly prior to the pandemic, immediately prior to the pandemic, I was earning enough on illustration that plausibly I could support myself, sort of. But I would be like below the poverty line. And you know, I live a very comfortable life that is not below the poverty line. But then there's another part to that as well, which is when I went full time, I just, you know, I had a job, part-time job for a while that was paying my bills. And then that ended, and I decided, well, I'm going to be a full-time illustrator. And at that point, I was earning like $2,000 a year. Like, it was not, you know, definitely not a full-time job. And, well, I'm just going to be an illustrator. So I just did. And, like, that's a risk that I could take because I had a support system, because my husband earns 10 times what I do. And so I, you know, I have to acknowledge that. I have to acknowledge that privilege. Where, like, yeah, some of that success, I mean, first of all, some of that success wouldn't have happened if I couldn't just let everything go and declare that I'm a full-time artist and this is my job. As I wouldn't have the time for that. My partner likes her painting. He just took a look and said it's super cool. Thank you. Lindsay says my mom took a look and went, whoa, that's amazing. Well, Lindsay, this one's yours. This is your sketchbook, so this will eventually come back to you. You get to keep this one. Built-in managers can be so unhelpful for mental health. Really, really, really. That's why art is my hobby. Well, yeah, exactly. So it's like, so misty morning. Here's what it looks like when it's dry. So see how it separates out completely? But so first of all, you know, I wouldn't be remotely able to claim that this is my job if it wasn't that I was able to claim this is my job when it definitely wouldn't have paid for anything. And that's just because I have a ton of privilege. And then even now, like, I mean, the pandemic has thrown things on its head. So now I'm getting government support on the months where I don't earn much. Prior to the pandemic, I was sort of earning almost enough that I could plausibly live a really, really stressful, terrible existence on my own. from my income, but certainly not, a comfortable living by any means. And I can do that because of a bunch of privilege. So it's, that's not. Is there some skill there? Is there some effort? Yes, definitely. But there's also just a ton of privilege. And so, I don't really want to say, anyone can achieve what I've achieved. Like, maybe. I mean, it's just, I had a lot of advantages that made it easier for me. And that continue to make it easier for me. Like, I have a wonderful life and I love my job and etc. And, but there are some concerns there. Patreon will change that. Well, that would be wonderful. I'm looking forward to it. But even still, I mean, Patreon would change the current situation, perhaps, right? But like, how did I get to where I am now? I think it's important to acknowledge that I came from a well-off family who were able to support my dreams as a child. I got to adulthood, and again, I have quite a bit of support here. I have a lot of privilege that has helped me get where I am. And it's, yes, I've put in a lot of effort and a lot of training. And a lot of the built-in manager being terrible for my mental health, but also there's also all sorts of privileges I have. I know that my mom didn't until I told her she thinks you're a great artist. Oh, thank you. I'm really having fun with this. This one actually is turning out quite well. Now, I'm pretty sure that some of these sketchbooks will be less developed and less, sketchbooks are for experimenting, and so I'm certainly not going to guarantee that every sketch is going to turn out, because they won't. I know that's what sketchbooks are like. But I imagine it's not too much of a problem. For a moment, I thought you were painting a background. I've considered it. I think I'm not going to, but I considered it because there's these like bright white little sections here. So to get some definition against the light colors, I considered putting in a background. Maybe just some kind of splatter or something. I don't think I'm going to do it on this, but I might try a different sample. Joy says most levels of success are because there was some sort of support at some point. If only everyone recognized that, I think we'd better be at a better place as communities. Yes, I absolutely agree. And actually, I mean, as far as pandemic, one thing I've benefited from, which, you know, it's not all artists, but, and it's not even all artists in Canada, but Canada has introduced, due to the pandemic, has introduced a, like a social safety, like a support payment. So if you've lost more than a percentage of your income, then you get a fixed amount every month. And it's functionally, for those receiving it, it's awfully close to a guaranteed annual income. And it's worse in some respects where if I earn more than a certain amount, then I just don't get the payment. And the amount in my case is less than the payment is. So there's some perverse incentives there. But it's nice in a sense, and I really wish that it was available to everyone. To just, you know, you get paid this amount by the government. And then you can do whatever you want. And it's not enough to like really comfortably live on. Like, nobody is going to comfortably live on 1,800 Canadian a month. It's just not happening. But it does help with like freeing people up to, you know, even though it's a very, very basic amount, to just like explore whatever careers they want and really develop that. And I feel like that would really lead to a better society. So I hope that that's where we're moving towards gradually. Love the minimalism elegance of white only being hinted at. Yuki Kianan Drive says, hello. Hi, Yuki. How are you? I think I better go now, else I won't get any of my own art done. Well, yes, absolutely. Your own art takes priority. Best of luck with your art. He says, I'm fine. What about you? And hi, Lana. I've been all right. Today's live stream has been fun. I've been on for quite some time, but I've been really enjoying this sketch, and so it's been pretty all right. I know that I'm keeping some people in Europe up for real late night. Me, it's 8 p.m. It's 6:13 where I am. So I take it you're really far east in North America? Like, is that Newfoundland time? For South America, I live in Brazil. Oh, right. Derp. Yes, of course. Of course, you're 2 hours ahead of me. Hola. Bem-vinda. Hi, I'm late to the party. Just wondering what kind of sketchbook you're using. So this is a sea white sketchbook. It's got a cold press finish. So I'm doing a sketchbook exchange with a few people. So we each chose our own sketchbooks. And so this is, Lindsay just answered, this is her sketchbook for the exchange. So this is a completely new to me paper. Just past midnight here, and I guess I'll need to go now. Bye, Lana. Bye, Gabor. Awesome, thanks. I'm on the hunt for a good watercolor sketchbook. I've really enjoyed the Etcher sketchbooks. They're a nice balance for me where they are 100% cotton, but they have a fairly light paperweight, so they take lots and lots of layers really nicely, but they you know, they don't feel precious, they don't feel really heavy, so I don't get precious about them. I think I'm getting a little sloppy here, and I'm just about done for the night. I need to break and stretch my back. So yeah, I may finish this later tonight, or possibly I might finish it tomorrow. If I'm finishing it tomorrow, I can maybe stream it after Ev's stream tomorrow. Do I still have a mod on right now? Moderators? Any moderators? I have a Discord channel where we nerd out throughout the week. I'm gonna post a link. I'm just gonna get up and post that in the chat right now. Sorry, actually I'll do that right here. One moment. And so then here. If anyone would like to join the Discord, if you're not already there, we nerd out about art and science and natural science illustration and gardening and other stuff. And it's kind of like this chill stream only throughout the week. So everyone is welcome to join. I think I'm signing off for tonight because I am getting quite tired. Okay? Thank you so much. Bye-bye.